it's come to a point where I can't move forward in life. Um, it's almost like I have committed so deeply to choosing wise action that if I am not choosing wise action, it's like I'm in a cave pressed up against a mass of spider webs and can't I can't go forward until I sit in the alchemy of all of these spider webs. And where do they have hold of me? Is it my throat? Is it my diaphragm? Is it my chest? Is it my belly? Is it my womb? Is it my ear? Is it my thinking? Yeah. And so much of our world is burned out on overdrive, or if not burnt out yet, just playing out overdrive. Um, my journey of really understanding wise action has deepened profoundly in the last couple of years since I have taken on the project of nourishing my body and my vessel at a whole new level, whole new foundation. And, I really appreciate, other educators out there who really understand this concept that, lack or deprivation is actually like a feeling of malnourishment of some kind is underneath a lot of the things that we're driven to do that are unwise actions, whether that be addictions or habits that are just not actually serving the evolution of our soul. And which I would argue there's still evolution going on because the soul is learning something through experience until it gets to a point where it can make a new choice. But I digress. But I just want to add that caveat. And, one of the profound revelations for me, I mean, I think a lot of us maybe understand that from a spiritual perspective or energy perspective, like deprivation or malnourishment, for example, a feeling of missing emotional connectedness often leads to addictions like drug and alcohol issues or pornography or shopping or whatever it might be, overeating, eating too much sugar, which kind of brings me to what I'm about to share, which is like how fascinating has been actually like learning about nourishment, like actual physiological nourishment and how that works cellularly and how metabolism works in the body, and developing a whole new relationship with my body and with food, physical food nutrients, and also learning the layers of nutrition, such as, the dense layer of minerals and macronutrients in food, and then the more refined layer of water and structured water, and even plasma when you get into quantum biology, all the way to light and the way that light, like real authentic light, sunlight and infrared light when used, you know, uh, anyway, infrared light being the human technology's best version of what the good things the sunlight does for us. But the way that this creates an alchemy in our cells that actually fuels the death rebirth process, like a butterfly in a chrysalis, death rebirth process, the regenerative process where all things as they are lost are actually recycled and remade at the right pace and dose and timing for something to evolve in a positive direction versus devolve by either dying too quickly to the point that the human being dies, or overproducing, not actually going through a proper death process, and then creating a kind of excessivity that can manifest as like a tumor or something that's really unhealthy. So learning how the death and rebirth process, like the midwifery of transformation, is happening at the cellular level, physically, as well as, emotionally and spiritually. So this is something I have so much, not just excitement and enthusiasm and extreme interest in, but also like profound reverence. Like I bow at the altar of this learning, and and apprenticeship to these ways, to these learnings, and the rites of passage of holding space for myself and other people around returning to the knowledge and wisdom of how the cycles work. I think this is actually the most for me, like the most radical activism in our world today, with all the things that are out of balance. Because if you think about it, all the systems that are out of balance, whether it be economic, whether it be political, our money system, our financial system, our work day, the way we schedule our calendars, the way that we use technology, it's based on a kind of like need to, in order to grow or be healthy, we have to continue expanding exponentially without a death cycle happening somewhere in there to reset it. And we try to do that a little bit. If you've read Sacred Economics, like we've tried at times to do that by printing more money and like bailing out people in debt and all that kind of thing. But it's just like a band-aid. It doesn't actually. What I'm trying to say is like there's a major restructuring that's needed of all of our systems, and I think a lot of people recognize that. And I just wanted to like add my voice around a very simple principle that has helped me in understanding how to be an activist, to not be overwhelmed and disempowered of feeling powerless around how to be in the world when I literally disagree with that whole paradigm. It's helped me to see that, oh, what's missing in that paradigm is the embrace of death and a healthy, beautiful, sacred relationship with death and the death rebirth cycle. And so when we can recalibrate our relationship with the death rebirth cycle, so much more becomes possible in terms of becoming a leader in your life, feeling more of a sense of creative empowerment, where you're on a whole different paradigm now. And it might seem countercultural in some ways, but it's actually profoundly expansive, and much older and wiser and vaster than the current hiccup, the current maladjustment or dysregulation of culture. To remember that this dysregulation has a timeline. Whether you go back a couple generations to processed food and the onset of all of the toxicity in our bodies that is leading to now all of the sudden chronic illness, among other things. Time for another video. or whether you go all the way back to the beginning of agriculture and more sedentary life instead of the hunter-gatherer culture as the beginning of trauma, like even if you go back that far, that's still such a small part of history. And as I love from the podcast, The Emerald, you know, our post-animate world, even though it feels like it's like reality to us, it's only like, what is it, like less than 1% of 1% of all of history of the on the earth, of all animate life, has actually been in this place of being separate and apart from the natural world, seeing it in an objective, fine kind of way, and we must use or commodify nature, each other, energy, time, resources in order to make something grow like money and store it away and hoard it away, create divisions amongst people, stagnating energy that doesn't move, doesn't flow, doesn't circulate like healthy energy in the body should. That's really only such a tiny percentage of history. So when we return to our curiosity and respect and reverence of the death life, the death rebirth cycle, and the way that all things uh, arrive at a point of dismemberment, finding an even stronger, more refined, purified version, like in alchemy, or a phoenix rising from the ashes, the butterfly wings being, gestated and coming to life within the cocoon. Like that, when we embrace that, we may seem in a way countercultural to this section of history as has felt so dominant in recent times, but we actually awaken to a much vaster, much deeper and much more resourced reality in the timeline of all existence. And suddenly we have so many more connections available to us, so much more resource available to us, so many more possibilities and pathways, and so much more health and vitality and possibility. So those are my thoughts on that for the moment. And maybe I'll just leave a little inquiry, which is, if you feel into your life right now, think about your life right now, the first thing that comes up into your mind's eye or your thoughts or your body feeling, sense, whatever pops up first around this idea of something that is feeling some pressure or tension, maybe a conflict, a sense of being, in a place of maybe it's tight and moving quickly and it doesn't know how to move, or maybe it feels stuck. To kind of touch in with that, and then welcoming in this larger, more expansive felt sense around you, of there being so much more available to resource the possibility that whatever this thing is, it's safe to let what needs to die, so that something new can be born. And it's not something you have to do, it's something that you can trust, and something that you can allow, and something that you can surrender into. And that there's a lot of safe and amazing, powerful grace that's got you, so you can let go into this.